Anybody who goes to work today, there's a general feeling of unease. We are not loyal to our companies anymore. Why would we be? They're not loyal to us. You can't incentivize an effect. You can only incentivize the cause that would hopefully yield that effect, which is behavior. So if I say to you, I will give you a massive bonus if you hit a certain target at the end of the year, no matter what you're incentivizing is that I will do certain things to achieve that goal that you've set for me. But the problem is when we apply excessive amounts of pressure, and it's at all costs, like my very livelihood depends on that, it can accidentally incentivize some quite unseemly behaviors, like hoarding information, right? Because this is what gives me my value, and I don't want to share information or things that I've learned with my colleagues and coworkers, which is madness. Or unethical behavior, stabbing other people in the back. And this is one of the problems with, I think, our modern business today, which is too much of business is run right now with an excessive amount of finite thinking. In the mid-1980s, a theologian named James Carsey wrote this little book called Finite and Infinite Games, in which he defines these two kinds of games. Finite games, which have known players, fixed rules, and agreed upon objectives. Football, right? There's always a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the objective is to win the game. And then there's infinite games. Infinite games are defined as known and unknown players. You don't necessarily know who all the other players are. The rules are changeable. You can play however you want. And the objective is to perpetuate the game, to stay in the game as long as possible. What I find so fascinating about this idea when I first learned about it is we are players in multiple infinite games every day of our lives. There's just no such thing as being the winner in your marriage, There's no such thing as winning global politics, and there's definitely no such thing as winning business. Business is an infinite game. And yet, when we listen to the language of too many leaders, they talk about being number one, being the best, and beating their competition. Based on what? There's no agreed upon objectives, there's no agreed upon timeframes. And so what ends up happening is you have people building organizations and leading with a finite mindset, playing to win, in a game where there's no such thing as winning. And when we play with a finite mindset in an infinite game, there's a few very predictable and consistent outcomes, amongst which include the decline of trust, the decline of cooperation, the decline of innovation, all of which contribute to the eventual demise of the organization itself. There's nothing wrong with revenues. There are two currencies in the infinite game, will and resources. Resources is money. You need money to stay in the game, but you need the will of the people as well. And the problem is that when we organize to win, that means the score is more important than the inspiration and motivation that people have to give their blood, sweat, and tears. And when we prioritize resources before will, that's a problem. I've never met a CEO that doesn't believe their people are important. The problem is where on the priority list. We've been to any number of presentations where they put their priorities on the wall, number one, growth, number two, shareholder value, number three, our customer, number four, our employees. There it is. See, I do care about our people. And the reality is, as social animals, we want to work for and we're willing to give our blood, sweat, and tears to leaders who understand that the balance of those two essential currencies, the balance of those two things is will has to come before resources. And that doesn't mean 90-10. When I talk about putting people before profit, people freak out, which is ridiculous. You need fuel for the car to go. Money is fuel for the organization, of course. Even if there's a leaning, if it's 51-49, there has to be a slight leaning towards people, because there will always be decisions that a company has to make in which those two cannot both be supplied and one will have to be sacrificed. The question is, which will you always prioritize? Let me give you a hypothetical example to make my point. Two CEOs. The first CEO says, our number one priority is growth. And of course our people are important, because if we take care of our people, we will meet and exceed our financial goals. Second CEO says, our number one priority is our people. And if we take care of our people, we will always meet and exceed our financial goals. Which one would you rather work for?
I don't want to prioritize.
I mean, it's obvious, right? It's obvious. So this is what it means to prioritize will over resources. It has, of course, money matters, but the people matter more. People who are willing to give their blood, sweat, and tears make for better, more profitable companies. People who are only there for their own selfish needs and would be willing to jump ship as soon as they get a better offer, they're not the best people to help build a company for the long term. We can throw money at people which will last for a while, and you can make a company look successful for a while, but it doesn't mean it can last. We can't judge a ship by how well the crew performs in calm waters. We judge a ship by how well the crew performs in rough waters. And the problem is in good times, we don't use all that extra money to take care of the people. We use it to distribute, and then when hard times come, sometimes there's not enough padding, and the culture hasn't been fostered over that time. But that is the irony, which is when we lead with an infinite mindset, and the leaders that do lead with an infinite mindset have disproportionately more successful companies, more innovative companies, more profitable companies, all of which are strong enough to last for a very, very, very long time. And not because they just have the financial wealth to weather storms, but the company continues to grow and innovate and reinvent itself so that it's relevant in the face of new technology and changing tastes and politics in the world. So that is the great irony. But it has to be genuine, meaning to say that I care about my people because they're a means to an end. It's like we only like you because you help us make money. Makes us not only feel used, but that we're a mechanism for somebody else's success. Where when we say we care about our people and money is the mechanism by which we can take care of people, the more money we make, the more we can take care of our people and serve our customers. It has a profound impact on our desire to give more. We want to feel safe at work, which means we feel that we can be ourselves. It means that we feel safe enough to raise our hands and say, I made a mistake. Or I don't feel qualified for the position you've given me, I need more training. Or I'm struggling at home, it's affecting my work. I'm scared, I need help. And to say any of those things with the confidence that our boss or any of our colleagues would rush to support us. Because if we don't create those psychologically and sometimes physically safe spaces, but those psychological safe spaces, what we end up is with a group of people who come to work every day lying, hiding, and faking. They're hiding mistakes. They are not admitting if they don't know how to do their jobs. They will never admit that they don't know something for fear that it makes them vulnerable, for fear that it maybe makes them the weak link, that they'll find themselves on some short list at the next round of layoffs. And the problem is how do you run a successful organization that's supposed to sustain over the long term, thrive over the long term, if people are literally hiding things that go wrong, not admitting that they don't know how to do their jobs, and never admitting they need help? That doesn't last. That doesn't last. And the problem is when someone leads with a finite mindset, where they attempt to incentivize performance. And by the way, you can't incentivize performance, you can only incentivize behavior. Anybody who goes to work today, there's a general feeling of unease, especially if you work for a company that embraces annual or even quarterly layoffs to meet arbitrary projections. Keep in mind, a lot of the companies that employ mass layoffs are profitable, just not as profitable as they would like. It's not like they're losing money and they had to do this to save the sinking ship. That's something completely different. These are highly profitable companies that missed a projection, and so they laid people off so they could meet that projection. There's something fundamentally wrong with that. And we know it because we feel it at work. We see this decline of trust. We are not loyal to our companies anymore. Why would we be? They're not loyal to us. And leaders set the tone. So when companies are loyal to us, we will give loyalty back to them. When they're not loyal to us, why would we be loyal to them? I'm tired of CEOs telling me that millennials these days don't stick around very long. Well, why would they if you don't offer them any kind of loyalty back? And it's not for the people to prove to you that they're loyal, it's the other way around. Leaders set the tone.